Okay, welcome to the late night chat. In the case of Johannes and Sabine, it's a very early morning chat, 3 in the morning from Germany. Um, so, uh, how about posting that email? And how about Goer?
Oh, okay. Sure. Jai Baba, everyone. Dear folks of Baba, a friend, a friend of mine jokingly refers to what she imagines is the ticker tape of thoughts passing through many people. I would rather be somewhere else, with someone else, doing something else. This captures the unfortunate mental life of many people today, the inability to remain in the present moment. Baba says, live more and more in the present, which is ever beautiful, stretches away beyond the limits of the past and the future. What pulls us out of the present? Why do we so often go back to reliving the past or anxiously anticipating the future? What keeps us from being content and even accepting the present as it is? Is it our attachment to mental comfort that we don't like to have or to face physical, emotional, and mental distress? What if we were to build up our tolerance for, it needs to move up, please? Thank you. So I'll start again from, oops, went a little too far up. Okay, where were we? What keeps us from being content and even accepting the present as it is? Is it our attachment to mental comfort that we don't like to have to face physical, emotional, and mental distress? What if we were to build up our tolerance for mental discomfort? Would we then be able to remain in the present no matter the circumstances we find ourselves in? Baba has said, be content with your lot. Have you experienced when you find yourself going over the past or envisioning the future that you lose the feeling of completeness? Is it possible to remain in the present and not go energetically into the past or future? Is there a distinction between going energetically in the past and future rather than letting the past and future come to you in the present? Erich and Dr. Kenmore, both Baba's intimate Mandli, were once discussing the subject of completeness. And Erich explained that with Baba, one feels complete. The feeling of completeness overpowers us. Nothing is wanting, absolutely nothing. The doctor understood that if a perfect master came by and offered Erich good God realization, he wouldn't even take it. What is that state of completeness which Erich must have been in to not even be tempted by realization? Baba has said, from childhood to old age, we always live in the present. Without being aware of it, we are constantly leaving the timeless present every moment and habitually stepping into our imagination. And then from there, we wander out into the finite world of time and space and leave the spontaneity and completeness of the timeless present. From completeness to incompleteness in an instant, we think that this is only natural, this is life. It is our old habit. Completeness is love, who we actually are, whereas striving to get something outside of the present commits us to the finite world of cause and effect. Early one morning, recently, this question arose in me. Why don't I always feel whole or complete? Baba responded to me with an entire discourse in a millisecond. In trying to put his momentary flash of insight into English, I understood him to convey it is because of one fundamental attachment, the one underlying all your other attachments, your attachment to mental comfort. If you could bear extreme mental discomfort in the present, you would remain whole. But when you find yourself uncomfortable, You always try to escape this moment into the thoughts of the future or the past, or you seek some distraction in the present. You leave the timeless present where I am truly found and enter the passing world of time and space. What you call life, you do not fully embrace what is, and so you remain incomplete. I am reminded of an earlier experience in the mid 1970s with Erich. One day, with many young Baba lovers gathered in Mandli Hall, Erich was telling stories of being with Baba in his casual and relaxed and loving way. At one point, when there was a pause in the sharing, I observed Erich and unexpectedly saw him through a different lens within and blurted out, Erich, I have a feeling that if I were to inhabit your body for half an hour, all I would want to do is to go unconscious and asleep. He gave me a momentary flash of acknowledgement, so instantaneous that I may have been the only one who caught his look. He said nothing in response, but I felt sure that I had stumbled upon something profound. I had felt for some time that he was bearing tremendous inner suffering for Baba, while always appearing relaxed and easygoing with us. I knew that if I were to inhabit his body, I would be absolutely crushed. There is a Zen saying, if you want to know where eternity is, it is no further than this moment. If you fail to find it in this present moment, you will not find it even in 1,000 years. What situations in your life keep you from staying in the present moment? What methods do you turn to remain in the present moment and not always be pulled energetically into the past or future? Do you find that thinking about the past or future robs you of your wholeness or completeness? What was your experience of time in early childhood? In his love, Jeff.
Well, thank you for reading that. It's a little longer than I intended. You know, I choose a topic and then it turns out to have a lot more aspects than I realize in unpacking it. And I can only choose some, and that was hit kind of morphed into a little bit more than I intended.
But it's very
But
thought provoking, Jeff, I have to say. Very
oh,
thought provoking indeed.
oh, thank you. Yeah, you know, some of you have expressed that, you know, after reading the emails, we kind of go on to a discussion, but it's hard to remember what was in the email. And so Marta got the idea of taking some of those questions and reading them out and one at a time and discussing them so that because we kind of get lost. I mean, I can't remember what was just read, you know. So I think that's a good idea. But I wanted to say a few things about the topic of the present moment. You know, over the years, some of the mandali, especially Darwin and Erich, whom I talked with, would express certain insights in words that, you know, didn't. I mean, I would hear the words, but it would be decades later before I understood what they were saying experientially. And this is one of the things that I gathered from them about the present moment. And I think it might help the discussion. Um, like there are two definitions of the present moment, as I gathered from them. One is the moment going by, you know, one tick at a time on a clock. You're going from one moment to the next moment to the next moment to the next moment ad infinitum, and that's kind of the illusory time of, you know, past, present, and future paradigm. I call that the passing present. But there's also what I call the timeless present. And in the timeless present, time is actually stopped. It's not going anywhere. Everything is still and actually vast. But it takes place in another dimension. It's in the present, but it's in a different dimension. And one is you find yourself stopped, and life is just passing by, but you're not in life. And Baba calls that the eternal now. And Darwin, we used to talk about there's a doorway that leads from the passing present into the timeless present. But anyway, just to kind of give a definition, because there are different definitions of those two different definitions of the present moment. One is always moving and passing, and the other one is stopped and still. So, anyway, Marta, let's see. Does anybody, what I just uh, said, does anybody have any questions about that? I mean, I don't know how clear that is.
I have a question about
Yeah.
it, Jeff. Um, I, as far as being conscious, uh, are we conscious in the eternal now, or because we can be conscious, I suppose, of what just happened, and maybe that something will happen in the very next moment. We don't know what it is necessarily. We hardly know anything about the very present moment, but the eternal one, what are we conscious of, or what are you conscious of if you are ever in that state?
Yeah, you're kind of stopped. You're stopped and you're aware of life going by, but you're not in the ground up in the whole drama of it. But it is a place of stop. We were, I would say, in early childhood, sometimes we were in that expansive present. So that one day, for me, one day in childhood could last a month because it wasn't shrunken down into a past, present, and future. There wasn't much future, and there wasn't much past that was creating this, hedging the present moment in. So it's a place within, uh, and like I say, I mean, I think we've all had kind of timeless moments where things just suddenly stop and everything is large and vast. I mean, does that ring a bell with some of you people?
If,
Well,
if
there
it
was,
does, could somebody give an example? Because I don't know what he's talking about.
Uh-oh. I
Jeff,
can't
there
think.
was a thing that you said early on in the letter. You mentioned the term accepting the present moment. To me, that is the key of being in the present moment, is to accept what is.
Yeah.
In other words, if you accept what is, then your is the present moment. Uh, was is different, and what will be, is a little different. Of course, like it also says, Baba says that that is stretches out back to the past and into the present, into the future. But I think the key is to just be with what is.
Yeah, I mean that is critical to be able to accept and stay whole in the present and not wanting to escape into the past or the future. Uh, I mean, I think I mentioned in there. There's going energetically into the future, and there is not like, for example, if I've got a um, um, a root canal that's coming up next Tuesday, and I can put that on my calendar and I can remain with that and stay in the present with it. But if I'm worried about it, then I'm energetically in the future. And you look at me and you say, "Well, Jeff isn't quite himself today. He's not quite present because I have projected myself energetically in the future." That is kind of what I gathered from Baba and the Mandali. Stay in the present And or if I'm, like I say, if I regret something, you know, things I've done in the past, and if I kind of, my mind turns to that, you can see that in the present I've kind of left, and I'm dwelling on that stuff in the past, and I'm not in the present, you know. So it's, there's an expression, when the past comes to you, it's you remain in the present with it.
Mm.
I don't know, is this make any sense? I mean,
Yeah,
uh,
Jeff, it,
I think the key
I'm
is the
sorry.
word
go ahead,
comfort.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, Jeff, this brings to mind an experience of mine which I went through, and I hope it sort of makes it a little clearer for some folks over here. So when I was going through a lot of trauma many years ago, and what came to me was very debilitating and mentally, emotionally, whatever, and I was very distraught. And I tried everything, and I think I've mentioned this numerous times. A friend of mine who I did confide in, who is definitely on the spiritual path, but he doesn't know it yet, um, said to me, well, after I had confided whatever, he said, Gohar, has anything happened to you physically about, you know, when you've gone through this experience? Yes, but do you find any change within yourself? You're still the same person. You're still whole. You're still, you know, able to function. You've got everything else around you that's still the same. So, and I thought about to myself, you know, something that actually sunk in. And when it finally did sink in, I thought to myself, it's true. Whatever I've been through, it hasn't really affected me as Gohar, as me as a person. It's only affected my perception of what I'm going through. So if I can step back and witness that and just be with it in this moment, then maybe I can, you know, come through it. And that's exactly what happened. That's when I stepped back and I was able to witness it for what it was, well, and that it did not didn't let it affect me. I realized that to be with it in the moment is actually a healing thing. And so I went through it, and with Baba's grace, I came out of it absolutely whole. So for me, that was the being in the eternal moment, just being with it,
Yeah,
as you say. Does that make it any
yeah,
clearer? I don't know.
yeah. I mean, you kind of drop back into your essence,
Yes,
where nothing was being changed by this
exactly,
experience.
exactly. My,
Yeah,
you know,
that.
I was still able to function. I was still able to be Gohar. I was still able to be with my family, look after my children, do all my others, you know, whatever. It didn't really disrupt anything as such. It was just my mental projection of what was happening was affecting me. So when I stepped back from that and saw it for what it was, I was able to move ahead with Baba's grace. So
Yeah,
I hope that helps.
yeah. I mean, I think that's an aspect of stepping into the more the timeless present. You're
Yeah,
stepping out of time,
yeah,
and but time is before you, but you're not buried in it, so to speak, and dragged from one end of the day to the other, you know.
correct. Anyway,
Anyone else?
Anthony.
I thought I saw Marion with a hand up, but I guess maybe not.
Anthony and
Oh,
Elizabeth are up.
oh, okay. What happened? I must be on the wrong page here. Okay.
You're on the wrong planet.
I'm on the wrong planet. Oh, there we
Yeah.
are. Okay.
Yeah, Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head in the email there, Jeff, when there's the, the discomfort in the present moment. I just think it's the instinct of any animal that when there's pain, you want to get away from it. And, when the present moment, I mean, whether it's intense pain or whether it's just like a vague anxiety or restlessness, the instinct is to try to get away from that. And, like Baba and the Buddha say that, desire is the root of all the suffering. And from what I've come to understand, like desire takes two forms. It's trying to get what you want, and it's also trying to get away from what you don't want. So, that's sort of like a form of trying to get rid of that pain, that you feel in the moment. You're trying to get things the way you want, and you're trying to escape away from things that you don't want to ease that pain. And that usually involves projecting into the future, to plot how to get that thing or how to avoid that thing, or going back into your past and, saying like, oh my God, this is like that. This can't happen like that again. And yeah, I think you really hit it on the head in the email there, that it's that inability to just be calm and present with that discomfort in the moment. And I don't know. I love meditation. I've always been a meditator because I just feel like it helps you to face that head on. It's like you have to sit there and relax and take Baba's name and just realize that it's not easy to sit there. But I've just found time and time again in my life that the practice of meditation helps you to get on the other side of that discomfort, to where you can finally just sit in the moment and enjoy, sitting in the boathouse at the center and looking at the lake and listening to the ocean or listening to music. And but it's real practice in getting past that layer of that restlessness and pain, so you can finally just be. But I don't know. Meditation's been my main way of doing it, and I do honor that everybody tries to do that in a different way. But anyways, that
Yeah.
was my.
And in fact, you're kind of talking about sublimating that experience into a more acceptable experience. You know, you can go from feeling miserable to listening to some music and lift yourself out of it. You don't. I mean, one way I should say is, if you have a toothache, I mean, it's not like you just sit there and bear the pain. I mean, you can have the toothache and accept it and accept it and accept it and accept until you get to the dentist's office, and then when he, get, relieves the pain, then you accept that. But you kind of you stay, stay with it and stay whole and not like, oh my God, I'm not going to be happy until the dentist kind of deals with this. It's very hard. I mean, like I say, but in the email, seeing Erich, the amount of pain, suffering that he could bear, and still just be there in the present with us. I mean, that's like a incredible example of what I think the Mandali were able to bear and not flee, not run away, not try to escape into alcohol or the past, how it used to be, or how it will be. It's very hard to stay in the present.
I
Okay,
felt a
next.
lot of it almost boiling down to like this. I don't know. It's almost like a dual awareness that I have in the moment now. I feel the awareness of my little like happy place with Baba, that's remembering him, being cheerful. And then there's an awareness of the discomfort in the heart and this and that. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like I'm aware of those two things all the time, and just being okay with the heart feeling weird and just saying, I'm just going to hang out in that little happy place with Baba,
Yeah,
even if it feels, like, I don't know, kind of strange sometimes that, yeah, I'm anxious and this and that. But I just feel like the more I can hang out in that happy place of Baba, like it's okay that the heart is uncomfortable. It's okay. It just is going to probably keep going on like that for a while until the karma, burns out.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like I have to decide. I can feel, you can feel miserable and whole, or you can try to try to get out of the misery, but then you're here, but you want to be over there, so you've lost the wholeness. It's kind of, so sometimes just accepting how you are, even if it's unpleasant, you still have your wholeness. You know. But yeah, once you start fishing around for, uh, relief that might not even be possible, but then you're projecting yourself into the future, the past, or your liquor cabinet right behind you. You reach in, get rum, grab a whiskey bottle and leave. No. Anyway, okay, next.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, well, two things. So one, I was wondering what you meant by the door, what you were specifically talking about, and the definitions of the present, were those of your own, creation, or are these ones that come from Baba writings? So that was one thing, and the other thing that I didn't understand in the reading is I was shocked when the person said that he thought that he would get crushed by Erich's suffering. So I don't know enough about Erich. I never met him. And what was he talking about Erich being sick at the end of his life? So I didn't understand that. I can't understand how
That was me. I mean, that was me that I
Oh,
was
so I
describing.
didn't
Yeah.
understand that at
No, I
all.
could tell. I could tell the suffering that Erich, what I perceived in him. If I would have inhabited his body for a half hour, I would be crushed. The amount of the amount of suffering he could bear, I could tell, would have crushed me.
But what kind of suffering was it?
Some kind of inner suffering. I'm not talking
Oh,
about physical suffering. And this is back in 1975. Erich was quite robust and energetic.
oh.
It's a different level.
So, but you
You know,
knew him really well. I never met him. So how did you perceive that about him?
I don't know. I just somehow I looked through a window that I don't normally look through. And I thought, oh my God, this guy, it's like, it's like seeing behind the facade, not a fake facade, but what. I mean, you could look at Val Calciuri, and he looked like he was glowing, and he looked so soft, and I mean the love and the glow radiating from him. But he would say, "I am suffering from head to foot, unbearable suffering," and it's right there in front of. I used to say, if you're suffering like that, Val, you're looking a little too good to be suffering that much. You really got to kind of start. You need to
So then
kind of
how
show
would
it.
you relate that to the present with the Erich example?
Because he was able to stay in the present with us and not
Oh,
try to escape that. He accepted it fully.
okay. And then the door, the concept of the door you talked about.
The door,
How do you get to the door? Jeff?
well, there is a way to get into that inner dimension, but often sometimes it's through pain and suffering, um, or through longing. There are different ways, but there is a different dimension where you're in the present, uh, and there's no future in the old sense. There's no past and future in the old sense of where you used to experience things. No one. I mean, Henry Cashaudy used to say, "Show me somebody who can get out of the present moment." Nobody can. We've never left this moment, but we think that we're going through time, but we haven't left this moment. He would say, when was there ever a time that wasn't the present?
So this eternal present, that's really the isness. So are you asking here, how do we get from this moment by moment type of presence and illusion to the timeless presence of isness,
Yeah.
or love, love as essence, or love as isness, or whatever? I mean, is that what you're asking?
Well, I'm just saying I benefited. I would hear Erickson, Darwin, and them talk about these things, and 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 maybe it'd be decades later, I would say, wow, this is what they were talking about. I was very glad to actually hear that there is such an inner place, you know, even though even though it was just in words, but then as time went on, through experience, I wound up dropping back into deeper places. So sometimes it's good to hear about it. I mean, because Darwin would say stuff I didn't know what he was talking about, but I felt the truth of it, and it would be years later that I would realize, wow, this is the place that Darwin was talking about. So it's not like you can understand it intellectually. It's you move to it experientially.
And
And
can
then,
you give an example that either Darwin gave or you have felt? And then I'll be quiet. I'm going to mute myself.
Well, actually, Goher gave an example. Goher gave a perfect example.
yeah. And yeah, and that's when it comes through trauma, you know, I mean, you know, a difficult time, but there are other ways that you drop back into it as well.
Can you have party time and get into it?
It is possible. I mean, like I say, in early childhood, we were often in this very free and expansive present moment. A young child doesn't, I'm talking about early childhood, they don't have this buildup of a past that they regret or are nostalgic about. They don't have a buildup of goals and things they have to do with their life. That isn't there. And so they live in the expansive present. So, as adults, can we do the same thing? Can we detach from the the past and the future? Bob, I mean, sometime or other I'll tell you how Bob kind of trained me on some of this stuff. Uh-oh.
Why don't you read one of the questions?
Yeah, just a second. Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead and
there it
read the
goes.
question. I'm at work here, so
Okay.
1 second.
Okay. So what if we were to build up our tolerance for mental discomfort? What does that mean? Would we then be able to remain in the present no matter the circumstances we find ourselves in?
You too.
What if we were to build up our tolerance for mental discomfort? What does that mean? Anybody? Bob?
That's sort of what I've been wrestling with over the last few days, trying to
Oh,
make
good.
some sense out of all this. It sort of ties into Margie's Thursday evening about suffering and building up tolerance for suffering. I mean, how does one do that? You know, if in the moment I'm feeling extremely anxious or depressed, I mean, it seems to me there's a very fine line between, somebody used the word witnessing, maybe it was Goher, and maybe that's the key to it, is to be able to be in that depressed place and experience it without trying to get away from it, but also not getting completely sucked into it. I mean, you know, so that one is, I think it's the essence of witnessing, is being able somehow to take that step back and be able to be in the experience, but watch oneself doing that, being that. Now, I can't think of a time when I was actually able to do that well. I mean, it's like Anthony said. I mean, the first reaction is self-preservation, small s self-preservation. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get away from this. This is crazy. Why am I feeling this? I didn't even know what this feeling is, much less, you know, so, well, I'll sort of stop there.
Yeah.
You
No.
nailed it, Bob. You nailed it.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, very good.
We're talking about mental discomforts, Jeff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it well.
Anthony.
Yeah, this may sound kind of weird. I just want to share this little like funny technique I've been using, especially like the last couple years to try to tolerate that. God, I don't know. I remember just the different times in my life that were beautiful peak experiences when I felt like I was at my best. And a lot of it was times out by the ocean, especially, times when I was younger, growing up in Homestead in South Florida. Getting to spend a lot of time in the Florida Keys and out on the reefs and all that. I so can remember that feeling and wanting, and just that feeling of freedom, that feeling of beauty in nature. I will literally, in those difficult moments, I will try to imagine myself with Baba in those most beautiful peak experiences I've had in my life. And I literally will just say, I'll feel the heart tightened up, I'll feel the mind going nuts, and I'll just say, Baba, it's just me and you out on the boat right now, out on the reefs in the Keys. We're just hanging out there. And I'll feel that feeling come back of being there, but with the added awareness of Baba. And then somehow, like, I feel like I'm able to tolerate the intense discomfort because I'll kind of feel like I'm on vacation with him at the same time this thing is going on. And that's been the only way I've really been able to do it when it's really intense, is I have to create the experience of my best times in my life and bring that energy back, but with Baba there, not just to remember like, oh yeah, when I was in the Keys with my friends. No, it's that place, but being there with Baba in that place. So I don't know. I just try to bring that imagery into my mind, and I will literally say it to myself out loud. If I'm alone and if there's people around, I'll try to whisper it or just say it internally. And then once I've created that mental image, I'll kind of just take his name repeatedly and hang out there. So I don't know. It's kind of weird, but that's the way I try to do it when it's really intolerable.
Yeah, you know what you're
That's
saying.
great. Yeah, that's great.
It's um, this is I mean, it's hard to unpack this whole thing, but one of the things that you touched on is we have timeless moments in the past which we can draw upon to get to the timelessness of the present. I mean, not to go back nostalgically, that's kind of like then you're moving energetically to the past. But those timeless qualities of being at Mehrabad and Merazad and everything, those things can take you into the timeless present. Uh, so there's kind of the past that you have an attachment to, and these are ones that are memories that are liberating. But it's hard, like I say, how much of this stuff can you go into?
Ron?
Yeah, I have a different way, which is something that I think I've talked about on our chat before. And what I think is important is to practice the mental discomfort thing. Practice lightening it up and not taking it seriously. If we take it seriously, it grows and becomes something quite large and takes us away into the past or the sometime when you hope you wouldn't be feeling this or whatever. Instead, what Baba sort of guided me into was, if something occurs, some kind of disappointment or a delay or something that really is annoying me, uh, what I do is I start talking to myself in such a way where I respond to it extravagantly to the point where it becomes ridiculous. I start just talking to myself like, "Oh my God, look how terrible this is!" Way over the top, and eventually I start to laugh or giggle or smile, and I experience discomfort, but I also reacted to it in a way that it undermines it. It like blows it away. So I think by doing that often enough, you get used to responding to discomfort so that you can handle it. So the more you practice, the better you'll be at it. You know, it's just like exercise. If you exercise your muscles, they'll get bigger and stronger. It's uncomfortable when you're doing it, but you're happier when you feel stronger.
Yeah, I mean, what you're doing in a way, I'm just, is that you're creating something new in the present. You're taking your old stuff and creating a new drama out of it. You know what I mean? You're in the present creating this absurd drama by exaggerating everything. And so you're actually in the present with some old stuff, so to speak, you know, or good. That's a
It's a
good
good
way. I
trick.
like that method.
Yeah, that's a good trick. Jeff, I
So
don't
Janet.
know. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. It says iPhone.
Oh, that's Janet.
I forgot your name. I'm sorry. Janet?
Yeah. Hi, Marta. Yeah, I love what everybody's saying, and I love I love the drama possibility. I think I'd be really good at that one. But but I noticed that for me, if I think I'm going to do something, like me, Janet, is going to do something, then it really works. I mean, only way I really ever experienced it is if Baba takes me there. And I mean, not like I experience it on a daily basis or anything like that, but you know, I have a hint. I have a scent of what you're talking about, Jeff. I know the scent, and you know, frequently it doesn't. It only is a glimpse and a glimmer, and it goes away quickly. Sometimes a little longer. You know, but if I try to do it, I get tangled. And if somehow Baba just takes me there, then it seems it just, that's how it works for me. I mean, not like I mean, I can say Baba's name. I can, you know, do things like imagine being in places with Baba or his places or out in nature or something, or even as a child. I can imagine those things, and that's all helpful, but to really enter into that space that is neither here nor there, literally, but somewhere else. It seems like Baba Baba takes over, and I don't know the key to that, and because I can't like make it happen, but it does happen for me sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm greatly appreciative of it, because once it happens, then I know it's happenable. for a word that doesn't exist. But yeah, that it's happenable. That location of consciousness is a possibility.
Yeah. You know, I should really make it clear. I mean, this is all done with Baba. I guess I should probably say this isn't like just done. Baba's the one who's kind of engineers this going within. I guess I should probably say a little more clearly that Baba is the one who is orchestrating this. But I guess I assume that that's obvious. But yeah. But yeah, Baba. I mean, this Baba taking us in that place. Baba is very present. Almost sometimes it could be, in the case of Darwin, face to face in that timeless present. So it's Baba engineering it, you know. So anyway, yeah.
Can we go to Bob?
Huh? Yeah.
Can we go to Bob?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I'd like I want to read a short quote from You and I that I really like. It's right on this topic, and it makes even more sense now that I'm listening to all of you and all of your experiences. Baba says, in loving yourself as wholeheartedly as you should have loved God, failures and despair stand up prominently before you. This is quite natural. Therefore, do not let the fact of your depression depress you. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
What page is that, Bob?
That is You and I, page 145.
Thank you.
There's a
Read
little
that
more,
again.
there's a little more of it, but it's, yeah.
Bob, read that one again.
I'll kind of read the whole thing. I skipped the first paragraph. It's pretty short. Whatever efforts you make, whatever the failures that seem to result, whatever the despair that follows, all have their roots in the fact that you love yourself more than you love God. In loving yourself as wholeheartedly as you should have loved God, failures and despair stand up prominently before you. This is quite natural. Therefore, do not let the fact of your depression depress you.
Yeah, that reminds me of what Eric conveyed to me. Don't have a problem with problems. I mean, he said, Jeff, don't have there are problems, but don't have a problem with the fact that there are problems. And he released me from years of problems with that.
That's good.
Now, Tony, you had your hand up, but then you disappeared.
Whimsical.
Yeah.
I'm not following a lot of the conversation tonight. So, and that's why I sometimes have disappeared. But one thought was, for me, I guess living in the present, the thing that most is alive for a lot of it seems, if I were to apply some of the things I'm hearing, would be very left brain, and I would be more in my head and not in the experience. I'm sure it's not that so for others, but where Baba talks about forgetting yourself, losing yourself in what you're doing, and that immediately immerses you in the present. So if I'm performing, if I'm doing music, if I'm writing, especially if I have time alone to just write, I'm gone. I'm nowhere, and the present is all there is. The story last Sunday night, the present was all there was for almost the whole week because of losing myself in the thing. And I think that's, for me, that's the ideal way to stay in the present. Also, just music. A certain point where I was getting lost in this conversation, I picked up this acoustic bass guitar and I set a soundtrack to the conversation. And by adding that right brain piece, I was able to totally flow in the moment with what was being said. So for me, that's, I guess, the main thing about staying in the present. And also, Elizabeth had mentioned earlier, it's one of the earlier times I took my hand up and down, about not being able to experience what Erich was experiencing, something that was the subject sort of. And I realized after my talk on Sunday that I mentioned something but didn't quite explain it, where I was at this peak of this intensity of having asked Baba for that wine, that real wine, and it was way more than I could handle, and it was making me a little crazy, and I described it vividly, but suddenly I saw in my mind's eye Elizabeth Patterson, and what I felt, what I was experiencing, was my entire insides to great depths was being gutted by this fire. And I suddenly saw it very present, Elizabeth Patterson, and something about her made clear that she was carrying this quality of love, of the fire of love, all the time. But she had the preparation, she was able to do that because she was at that stage in her relationship with God and with Baba. And what I left out of the story was, and then I said, Baba, please take it away. I'm sorry, please take it away. That was the day that Elizabeth went to Baba. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think we can fathom, and I don't think it's the same kind of suffering to them. It's a suffering that you can endure is different, even if it's a suffering that someone else maybe couldn't endure. So
Yeah, I mean, if the suffering is chosen, it's not suffering in the, in the usual. There's a line from Rumi where he said, no, Sanai, he was a mystic saint. As long as I feel you right here with me, I cannot say that I'm suffering.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful line.
That's
But
beautiful.
what you say, Tony, I agree, is losing yourself in what you're doing really brings you alive in the present.
yeah,
Even though you don't have necessarily that consciousness that's witnessing it, even that consciousness is witnessing the present moment gets drowned in the experience of losing yourself in the moment.
yeah.
You even lose consciousness, and that's Eric said that's one of the best things that we can do. Yeah.
Gabriella?
And Jay Baba.
Jai
So
Baba.
this is a really wonderful topic. I'm so glad I tuned in tonight. I when I was younger, I meditated a lot, and it would be very easy for me to just close my eyes and go into a really blissful state. And I believed that was being in the present moment, at least at that time. I'm not sure if I was just spacing out, but I do it for hours and hours. And as I've gotten older and had a lot of physical suffering, it's like my body is so heavy. I mean, I went to that lightness when I was younger, but the physical pain draws me back to the earth. And so to be present and to endure more and more of physical, in my case, it's been a lot of physical pain. I loved what you said, Tony, because just it made me feel like, oh, it doesn't have to be dry. Like I don't have to be sitting and just watching my mind. I can write that poem and I can, sing that song or listen to something or help someone or listen to somebody else to. And one thing that Bob has been doing with me recently is, or he did, especially at the beginning of the war, in Israel, is he would take me to the hostages and I would just, I didn't ask for it. He just took me. So I expanded and talk about increasing your capacity, because then I wasn't with my own only, but I was either in my imagination or in some other state. I can't say, but it was very, very deep. And it took me into the present in a certain way. So I think there's so many ways to increase one's capacity for suffering. And I don't think we have to look for them for the opportunity to suffer. I think it's all around us all the time. I mean, whether it's our own physical suffering or our own mental suffering or that great grief of the world. As they say, don't go looking for trouble, trouble will find you. When I am in experiencing suffering, for these days, it's for learning to endure that and indeed to feel Baba with me in it. So all of the things that have been said tonight have been really helpful tonight. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Gabriella. Yeah. There are a lot, that's why a topic like this has a lot of aspects that don't necessarily get covered in an email, because we're opening other aspects here. Okay, Ronnie.
Well, one thing that comes to mind that I often think about is that Baba, I've heard that Baba said this, I may have read it as well, that 99% of all our suffering combined is self-created. So it's not like we're drawing suffering to us, or that, you know, suffering is just waiting in to pounce on us or anything like that. I don't think that's what's happening. I think we're just in a situation where we are in the habit of creating certain things that will occur that are problematic or worrisome, or that cause us discomfort. Now, if that's the case, well, then that's to be expected. We're going to have that. There's no way around it. You can't stop the process. The process is that blessings are coming and tests are coming, and it's as a result of what we've created by the way we've lived all our lifetimes. Now, but one thing that you could consider, I mean, and I like to consider, is Baba said that he wanted us to give him things, but what he wanted was not what he already had. He wanted things that he didn't have. So that would be the most practical thing, for us to give him something he doesn't have, and that would be problems and worries. Because what he loved to get those from us, because he loves working them out for us. That's his favorite thing. And if we didn't have them and give them to him, not that we want to get rid of them, but we want to give it to him, because then we were able to rejoice in how he works it all out.
Mhm.
You know, he works it out for us in these amazing, masterful ways. Now we have to have some patience, maybe. Sometimes, you know, it won't happen till the next day, and sometimes it'll happen 20 or 30 years later. It doesn't really matter, but Baba will take care of it. And so having those problems, yeah, we don't have to fix our own problems on our own. Now that we have Baba, he's there to help, and he wants us to give him that opportunity.
Yeah,
Very
That's-
good, very good.
yeah. And you know,
Diane, did you have your hand up? What happened?
I think I pulled a Tony, which is now a verb.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
no, I think, you know, you always know when to draw things out of me, so let me not try and avoid this. This subject hits me on many levels, from the inability to stay present, just like when I'm listening to you guys talk. And I can only pray that when somebody reads something, somebody says, read it again, because that maybe on the second time I'll be able to take it in. But you can't do that in real life. You can't ask people to read it again or watch the recording. And
would you repeat that abuse again, please?
yeah, exactly.
Smack me one more.
So there's that. But you know, Terry and I are edging our way towards retirement, and for the past year, we had it in our future plans that she was going to stop working on Wednesdays. Well, last Wednesday was that first Wednesday. So the future became the present. And it was to look at that allowed me to be more in the present than I've ever been. Because I wasn't planning the next step, because we had just gotten to the next step. And I think we were allowing ourselves to relish in it. And so that's one thing. And I'm not sure I quite understand the concept of the way that you have to have such mental discomfort. It's not always about discomfort, you know. I don't know if it's literally ADD or it's when you talk to people, most people have a really hard time focusing, because there's so many things that pull us away. And I know I've succumbed to many of them, so they become default. Even if I'm listening to something I'm interested, I'll still check my phone.
Yeah.
So that's taking me away from it. And so one of my first goals in retirement is to see if I can actually focus for like maybe a minute or two to start off with, because the work life that has been calling me and distracting me for 40 plus years won't be there. And that's so now, guys, I'm talking about the future, and when it becomes the present, I'll make note of it.
And I was
Very
sharing
good.
with Diane too that I think that we go away from our thoughts, the present moment, even with good stuff. It doesn't even have to be suffering and bad stuff. We went, it was my birthday this weekend, and we went for a massage. And I was laying on the table and I was thinking to myself what I would do when I got home, and we were going to stop at the market and what I needed. And here, this woman, I must say, I've had a lot of years of massage. This woman just gets me perfectly. It's so wonderful. And I couldn't even stay with the massage. So I went into my heart and I just started saying Baba. And I remembered a time when I first got back from India that we were going for a massage. And when I would just close my eyes, I would see Baba. And I remembered that time, and I brought it to the current moment of just being with him. And as I was with him, I was with myself. And it was really an amazing thing. And this was about good stuff, you know, it's just that our mind goes away from us, you know, being present. But and another piece of this for me is letting go. So like, it's hard to like, if you don't let go of the last moment, how are you going to go into the next moment and be present? So Bubba's helped me get better with just releasing it. It does affect my memory a little bit because I don't hold on to it as long. So sometimes I need to be reminded, but I don't have to stay there, you know, in the past. I can just keep going with what's happening. And you know, Bubba's changed my whole life. So he just does. If you think of him, he brings you back to exactly where you're at. And he holds your hand. Good or
and, you know, and the thing you say there is your past came to you
Mm-hmm.
in a way. You weren't going energetically
Oh, he
past.
brought it to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different. I mean, it's hard to describe the past coming to you rather than us going out energetically to the past
Mm-hmm.
in the future. I mean, I'm throwing these things out, and yeah.
I want to just read something, and I'm going to morph and believe that it's appropriate to what we're talking about right now. But if I'm ever in that mental discomfort, it's usually because I'm anxious about how something's going to turn out. So Terry turned me on to this yesterday, and I haven't stopped thinking about it. Staying positive does not mean that things will turn out okay. Rather, it is knowing that you will be okay no matter how things turn out.
Yeah.
Very good.
And I keep looking at that. I had to take a picture of it just to remind myself. It'll help me so much when I start going to that radio KFUC in my head. And you need help with that one, Jeff? You got it.
KUFC, what's that?
Well, you know, in California, all radio stations start with a K. So KABC,
Yeah,
you know, SUN, something like that.
yeah.
So KFCK. I don't.
You
You don't add the U. I don't want to swear on this
Oh.
recording.
Okay, I got it.
And I'm so sorry I had to explain a joke. That means
Yeah.
it wasn't very funny.
You know, there's a line from Winston Churchill I like where he says, "Success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm."
And then he had another drink.
You know,
Hey, but that's like That's like Thomas Edison, who went through all those failures before he got the light bulb. So one failure
Yeah.
just leads to your success.
And the light bulb was above his head the whole time. There's a, this is a slight departure, but a woman said to Winston Churchill, "If I was your wife, I would poison your tea," something like that. And he said, "And if I was your husband, I'd drink it." Or if you were my wife, I'd drink it. Anyway, that's a slight departure from.
Slight.
Elizabeth's thing about Thomas Edison reminded me. I've been in sales for many years, and took some sales training. And one of the things was that it's a matter of quality of your cold calls. I used to do cold calls, and I got a lot of my business from that. But because I practiced it, I got better. But one of the things was that you will get way more no's and not interested, and then you will, yeah, that would be, yeah, I'm really interested in that, But what you can do is when you get that, instead of being disappointed, you can just think, well, that's number 8. All I need is 2 more no's, and I'm probably going to get a yes pretty soon, And so if you just use creative ideas and thinking, a lot of this gets really undone. And so that really helped me to know that I was going to get all those no's before I ever got a yes.
Yeah.
You have a lot of creative ideas, Ron. You have a lot of creativity to think of these things.
Yeah. He
It's
might
really great.
sell your
I think
house
I just
if he's not
opened some
careful.
to inner guidance. I mean, it feels more like inner guidance, but it does take a creative sensibility. I believe you're right.
Yeah, I'm glad you share it. What did you say, Jeff? You
I
said
said,
something.
be careful. He might sell your house right from under you. Ronnie, he can do it. Okay. It looks like Elizabeth is.
Elizabeth.
Uh-oh.
Whoops. Okay. So for me, I think the easiest way to be in the present is kind of Tony's way, is if I write a poem, if I'm singing, if I'm trying to draw, because I really can't draw, but sometimes I try anyway. Almost anything with the arts. And the other thing is, as you guys know, I'm pretty much an intellectual, I can't stop my brain from working. If I get started on writing about something or thinking about something, then I'm in the present as well. So you can be in the present intellectually and actually get to that zone. And I was in that zone when I was writing my dissertation for about 56 hours straight one time. And it was a really pretty surreal. I actually started hearing classical music in my head, and there was no music around. And I think I was just in a zone. But and another way is just being in nature. Like recently I was in Anna Maria Island in Florida, and there were these pelicans flying, and they were kamikaze diving. And I was just absolutely enthralled with them and kept taking photographs. And I'm not a photographer, really. I just had my iPhone, but I just could have stayed there forever, watching those birds sailing and then coming into a kamikaze dive. And there were a whole bunch of them because it was a very long pier. And I just keep thinking back to that time, kind of the way I think about the center when I'm not there. And think of the scene across Long Lake and the boathouse and the various places along the path, or inside the lagoon cabin, and just kind of, or by Gator Lake, or along the path, the wooded path to the beach, then I can be in the present.
Yeah, beautiful. Hey, I wanted to ask Sabine and Johannes, anything that comes to mind for you folks about staying in the present or?
You?
Yeah, I guess for me it would be, I know that it would be very easy for me to be in the present if I could remove my thoughts, my mind. If if I could really be in my heart, all would be okay, and I would be in the eternal present if I would be able to be in my heart. But I'm so mindful, and not mindful, but I'm so in my head my whole life. I'm forgetting my being in my heart, and being at the few times I was in my heart, then I'm sure I'm in the eternal present. It's all in my heart, I guess.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I know there's an old follower of Baba's, um, Fred Winterfeld. He said it takes lifetimes to get from here down to the heart. I mean, it's a process, you know. And when Robert Dreyfus went to see Baba in 1965, he was just 25 years old, and he was with Baba at Merzad. And when he came back, as he was going through New York, they grabbed him to share his experience. This was the Monday night group, and a lot of older people. He was just like, say, 25, and he was up there, and they asked him, well, what was it like to meet Baba? You know, what was your experience? And he went, I went from here to here, and that was the end of his talk. They couldn't get anything else out of him. That was it. But that movement from here to here is often hard won, heartache and disappointment and everything. What about you, Sabine? What? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just know it would be so easy for me if I could change my focus from my mind to my heart.
Yeah. One of the things that, of course, Darwin said is to track your feelings. Track what you're feeling down at this level, and then you get yourself established at the heart level. Uh, you know, and fortunately, our feelings interface on our body, where there's anxiety or there's hurt, there's sadness, there's
All
anger.
happens up there.
That if you can get the awareness down there, not the thinking, but the awareness, then that's one way of getting more established. But it's very hard to stay in the heart because I find, you know, if someone insults me, it hits my heart, but then I go up into my head and I'm planning, oh, okay, I'm gonna watch out for this guy. You know, he can insult me. So we just jump right up into the head. So it's hard to stay with the hurt at the heart level. We want to go we go up out of it, you know. But what about you, Sabine? Anything that occurs to you at 4 in the morning?
Yeah, it's hard to think, really. Yeah, I'm wondering if I ever had moments like that. I mean, I remember when I gave birth when I was 5 months pregnant and the baby died, and I remember a moment in the hospital. I was in such pain about the loss of her. And I realized at the same moment that joy was just the other side of that pain. So I think that was probably a moment when I was in the moment. I was just with it without trying to escape it or to understand it, or, you know, it just was.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Wow, that's
deepest level.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That little
and
baby gave you that gift.
Yeah.
Your
No, she
little
gave me
baby
many
gave you
gifts.
that gift. Oh,
Mm.
so sweet. What a great story. Wow.
yeah.
Hmm.
Hey, oh wow, we got Tony there.
We got a lineup.
We got a
There's
lineup,
Tony,
and
who
then
doesn't
as
want to
soon
be
as we
here,
go
but
through
he's
this,
been talking up a storm there.
yeah,
Okay, Tony, go.
This was just also inspired by what Elizabeth was saying about her thesis. When I was still a kid, I mean, certainly before Baba dropped his body, there was a period where I was lying in bed and I would hear ringing in my ears. And it was just like this. And I would just lay there and just listen to it and kind of go and get inside of it. I wasn't doing any procedure. It was just, it was there. What was I going to do? And so I just entered it. And then all of a sudden, one night, this happened. And all of a sudden, I was hearing this most incredible classical music. I mean, just brilliant classical music. And it wasn't coming from anywhere. I got up, I looked around, and there wasn't outside. It was something that, in focusing on that tone, I had tapped into something. And years later, I heard in one of Harry Kenmore's talks about how Mozart, in writing his last three symphonies, heard them from the subtle plane. And he heard them all in a single note. And then he just went about writing them down. And I remembered thinking, when that happened to me, I had the thought, if only I could write this down, I would be the greatest classical music composer that ever lived. But I mean, that's a different kind of forgetfulness, but it can take you places.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, these are lovely. It's funny, we're kind of getting into some of the peak experiences as a way of getting into the deeper aspect of the present. Gabriella.
Gabriella?
Hi. So I have two kind of questions. One is, I came in when Anthony was speaking about meditation, and having had that really long period of my life where I did so much meditation, Anthony, and then Baba kind of removed that from me a lot. And so, but I still have this belief, and I wanted to ask you what you thought, that the emptiness is higher than the fullness, in a sense. Because we're talking a lot of ways to fill up, and like I said, it doesn't have to be dry. Like it's just like having that, being able to write a poem or listen to music, but always with Baba. But if the emptiness or silence, if you will, with Baba, it can be there. I've always had this, maybe from my earliest training, that's a better place to be. So I wanted to ask your opinion about that. I can ask my other question afterwards.
You want to put it out on the floor there.
Sure, it's to the floor,
Oh,
but I actually was
yeah.
interested in what Anthony had to say. Yeah.
Oh, wow. God, yeah, I don't know if I 100% understand what you're saying, Gabriella. I don't know if I'm able to ever get to that total emptiness like that. You know, the times it has kind of happened, it almost feels like it's by grace, and it's just kind of super rare. I don't know. I feel like just taking his name and just having that going on in there is about the closest I even know to what that even is. And I don't even know if I even answering the question totally right, or if I understand it all the way. I mean, you can feel free to expand on it too if I'm kind of missing the point.
Okay.
Or we can hear, I don't know, maybe if some other people talk, I'll understand it better too.
I always think that emptiness and fullness are very close to each other.
Mm.
You know, the emptiness can be filled in a moment, and the fullness can become empty in a moment. You know, you can sing your heart out, and at the end, you might feel empty until it fills up again. Or you can feel empty, and suddenly something beautiful comes in. I mean, I think it reflects nirvana and nirvikalpa. There's the emptiness and then the fullness.
Mm.
And I think that it percolates down here at our level.
Yeah. Thank you. That's great.
That's
I
beautiful.
wanted to ask Mayor Sugar, what do you, anything occurs to you in all this stuff we're talking about?
No.
Anything do you, I mean, how do you do with staying in the present? I mean, you're very busy. I mean, you're in the computer world. How do you, how are, how do you wind up dealing with staying in the present or staying, uh, being pulled out of the present?
You mean staying in the present with Baba or in
Yeah,
general?
staying in the present with Baba, or being pulled out of that place. How do you experience this type of thing?
Well, I mean, the only way I stay in the present is by remembering him constantly, at least 3 to 4 times in the day. You know,
Yeah,
that's one way I maintain my contact with him. You know, it's very tough to deal with work pressure, and then there are times when you try to lose your calmness, and then you try to lose your temper and all that, but the only way you can come back into that present is just holding on to him and remembering him. So that's one way I keep in the present with him, you know.
beautiful. Yeah. Thank God we have this available to us. A magnetism that's more powerful than all of the trinkets of this world, so to speak. Hey, so just two more things, and then I think it's getting late, and I will get fired for not doing my closing the front gates. Yeah. Gabriella, you have your hand up, but maybe it's just lingering.
Well, I did have one more question, but it's too much, I think, to ask. I'll put it out and then maybe people can next time or something.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, because I said so much of my suffering these days isn't mental, has moved to physical. I used to have a lot of mental suffering, and now it's Baba's just given me the physical sort of detracts from the mental, so it takes your attention. So people, and Baba said, I think that mental suffering is worse than physical suffering. So maybe I should be grateful. But I'm just interested, we're all getting older. I'm not alone in all this. And I'm just wondering, because of course, there is physical pain, and then there's the absence of physical pain. And there's, like you could say, there's pleasure and there's pain, but is pleasure just the absence of physical pain, which these days I just feel that's the greatest thing on earth? Or what are people's ways for dealing with physical suffering? I'm curious about that.
Yeah. Wow.
So that requires 3 hours. So
Yeah.
That would be a
I
good
remember
subject for a
Adi.
meeting.
I remember I was with Adi one time, and he had a problem with arthritis, and he said, "It's great to grow old with Baba, but it's not great to grow old in the body." He rattled that thing off. But yeah, yeah, that might be a huge thing at this late hour, but very, very important subject, because I look around and most people look like they're, kind of getting near the nursing homes here, No.
Be careful.
Oh, yeah. No, we're up there, we're in the dizzy heights, guys like Anthony, I mean, they're just,
Yeah.
and Mayor Sagar, they're doing push-ups and, all that kind of stuff on a regular basis. But yeah, that would be an interesting thing, because that's something that we're going to have to deal with, uh, with grace, so to speak. You know. Okay, last one. It's Elizabeth. Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, so I just wanted to remind all of us that Baba talked about perfection as the balancing of the mind and the heart. And I guess the reason is, the Sabine's husband, I don't know his name. What is his name?
Johannes.
Yeah, Johannes was concerned about his being in his head. But I mean, Baba didn't say that we shouldn't use our brains or that that's a bad thing. He just said we need to blend the head and the heart. So anyway, I just thought that's important to remember. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Hey, well, let's see. Have we got Gabrielle? You had a last little comment there. Oh, your hand is still up. You know what? Your physical problem is that you're holding your hand up too long and it starts to hurt. Now let's see. Anyone have a final quote that?
Yes, I have one, Jeff.
Okay, good. And then after this, we'll have a few moments of silence.
Yeah. So I was trying to search for a quote that would be appropriate to today's topic, and this is the closest I could come. And this is also from You and I. And Baba says, remember the present in the frame of the past and the future. You eternally were, always will be. Jai Baba.
Ooh, read that one again.
Oh, wow.
I don't know.
It's intense.
What this You and I? What book is that? You and I.
You and I is the book that Rick Chapman put
Rick
out.
Chapman.
Oh, okay, yeah, that one. Okay,
of all the
yeah.
quotes. There are like
Yeah.
a zillion quotes in here. And this is on page 177. And Baba says, remember the present in the frame of the past and the future. You eternally were and always will be. Jai Baba.
Well, Jeff, you know the one live more and more in the present, which is ever more beautiful and stretches beyond the limits of the past and the future, or something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he had that.
That was in the email that I sent out, but you might not have gotten it. Yeah. This is the moment. Yeah. Anyway, let's have a few moments of silence. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Sometime I'll share a method Baba gave me about in staying in the present, but it takes a little while to describe. But it involves giving the past to Baba and the future to Baba, which keeps you in the present. In other words, if I'm giving my nostalgia to Baba in the present, then I remain in the present. That type of thing. But anyway, that's another whole topic at some point. Any last minute?
That sounds very
comment?
interesting. I want to hear you do that one.
Yeah, I'll do it sometime. Yeah. I shared it. There is a recording of it, a talk that I gave, I think to Seattle, either Seattle or Bombay group. What Baba had, might be Seattle, Baba's birthday last year, something like that. Yeah. Any small change? Anything?
I have a quote from Francis Brabazon.
Yeah.
We're talking about suffering and suffering being self-created. It's just Guzzle 111, just the first four couplets. I have not yet met one who had not grief engraved on his face, and everyone I've met longed for the divine beloved's embrace. Yet all were running as fast as their legs could carry them into the arms of distress that was waiting to marry them. What a strange stage is this world on which is played contradictions, and the players, both noble and base, are nothing but fictions. The only thing that is real is suffering, and that only is because in our mad pursuit of happiness, we fly from bliss.
In a mad
Beautiful.
pursuit of happiness, we what from bliss?
Fly from bliss.
Fly from bliss. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
There's Dinko. Hi, Dinko.
Yeah.
Hi,
We got
everyone.
Dinko and
Jai Baba.
Anita.
Hey,
There.
Dinko.
Mayor Baba Ki Jai.
Oh,
We got
Anita's there.
Avatar Mayor
Yeah.
Baba
Mayor
Ki
we got
Jai.
Over
Jai.
there.
Mayor Baba Ki Jai. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Marta.
Baba.
Hey, Baba.
Good night,
Any,
guys.
You were a great hostess, Marta.
yeah.
Thanks,
think-
Alyssa.
Not
We
that it
didn't even
matters
get
what I
around to
say,
the
but
questions.
There you were.
Aha.
Yeah.
We done, Jeff?
What's that?
Are
I
we
think
done?
we are basically, unless anybody has
So,
something.
Tony, where
And-
were those couplets from in Brabazon?
Guzzle 111 from In Dust I Sing.
Okay, thanks.
Those are the first four of the Guzzle has 7 couplets. Those are
Great.
the first four.
Wonderful. Thank you. Jai Baba.
Wow.
Jai
Baba.
Baba.
Yeah, Jay Bob.
Say Baba.
Jai Baba, everyone.
Hey, Baba.
Baba.
Hey,
And
Mayor.
it's nice to see
Hey,
Paula.
Baba.
Oh, Paula left.
18.
Yeah. Ralph Jackson,
17.
he was hiding. Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
Night.
Morning,
Good night, Diane.
See you guys.
Good night, Terry.
Yeah.
Jai
See
Baba.
you. Good night.
Night.
Good night.
And I bid you
Good night. 16.
Good
Thank
night.
you,
Good
Jeff.
night.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Wonderful
Yeah.
shares.
Thank you for
Wonderful.
all the, yeah, this
Hey, Baba.
turned out to be a can of worms, you know?
Yeah.
I think it can be a sequel.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different aspects. It's hard. The idea that Tony brought up, self-forgetfulness, that's another whole aspect of being in the present.
I thought what Gabriella brought up, though, about physical suffering, particularly with aging, which
Yeah.
I think applies to most of us here.
Yeah.
It would be if we can do it without getting kind of lost in the subject, it
Let
could
me
be
tell you about my last surgery, okay? Just a second.
well. The thing is, standing by
kept
the
me open.
refrigerator, and my knee went. I had like 4 buckles all at once,
Yeah.
and it was, where the hell does that come from? Where, Baba? What the hell? I want to be able to walk. I'm only 71.
Who's the one that's doing the recording of this?
Oh, hi.
Was it
Jai Seema, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't speak
Seema,
to
he's
Seema.
the host.
Oh, Jay Seema's down
He's
below.
still
Okay.
here, but he's in the,
Yeah.
not on
Okay.
camera.
He's hiding.
Yeah, my
Just say
camera is
goodnight,
not working.
everybody. Jai
Uh,
Baba.
dreams.
Hey,
Oh,
Baba.
You guys.
my camera's dying, so gotta go.
Okay.
Jai Baba.
Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Jay Baba, Jay Baba. Yep. See you guys. Whoop. So Dinku, you're gonna make it to Maribad before it gets too hot?
Uh, I don't know. I'm getting some work done in the house,
Yeah.
so I don't know if I can get down there again before it shuts down.
Yeah,
But definitely later, for sure.
good. All right, Jay Seema, thank
Did
you
you?
for. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. Did you get that picture of Baba I sent with Farishte?
Not yet.
Oh, okay, I'll remind her.
Yeah. It's hard after you come back from India to remember anything, you know?
But it was
Yeah.
lovely having her and Janaki over.
Oh, I know. And they really loved it. That's just, it's great. We meet all these, souls we would not have met if it weren't
Yeah.
for the pandemic and these Zoom sessions. It's just fantastic. Anyway, see all of you and Jay Seema, love to Salaja and the kids.
Thank you, Jeff.
I hope, when are you going to get down to the center? You guys have,
I think we are coming on 10th
10th
April.
of April.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Wonderful. I'll see you then.
Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Baba.